I'm gonna first go over the good of this, and then I'm gonna go over the bad of this O-Cedar mop. This is a great mop, it has a really cool design. The main attraction to it is this little spin mechanism right here, where you basically loosely hold this handle, you hit this a bunch with your foot, and it uses centripetal force to rinse out the mop. So now this mop is rinsed, you can see it's not dripping any water, but it's still wet and damp enough to clean the floor. Now another good thing about this mop is that it's very easy to manipulate and to get into tight spaces and get around things. It's got a unique triangular shaped head, and then obviously with it being a mop, it really allows you to get into crevices and clean. I feel like you can get right up next to baseboards. I feel like you can actually get down into grout if you're cleaning tile, but it's very easy to manipulate and use in terms of the way this head is designed. Now another cool thing is it's really easy to replace the mop head. You simply just pull up, it releases like that. Obviously you can buy replacements. It's as simple as putting it down, and then you just line up the mop head like this and then just push down on it. You can even step to make sure it clicks into place, and you've got a new mop head on there. Another great thing is this pole is adjustable, so you simply twist and then you can shrink it up. So it's great, you know, for different heights. If you're, you know, shorter, shrink the pole. If you're taller, obviously you're gonna expand it all the way. I think it is a good size pole, but another great thing about that is, you know, when it comes time to store it up, it's gonna take up less room if you're putting it in a closet or something like that. Also, I like this mop design. It's a pretty good sized bucket, meaning there's a decent amount of water in there. When you have the smaller buckets, I find that you have to replace the water more often and it's less efficient. I think this is a really good amount in terms of it's big, it gets a little heavy, but it's not too cumbersome. And I like that they have this little pouring lip at the front. You can see it kind of tilts towards the front. You can grab this as a handle in the back, walk it over to your sink, and then dump it out real quick, put it in the sink, fill it back up. I've had this for quite a while now, and you know, I can say that it's durable in the fact that it hasn't broke. And obviously that spin design, it is really cool. And one thing that's like, you know, I guess subjective is I find it really fun relative to, you know, another commercial mop I have for my garage floor and stuff. It's not as fun wringing it out with that old school yellow mop as this guy. So now let's get to the bad. So you might notice this is actually a pretty small mopping head. So, you know, there's definitely mops that have a bigger mopping head, which is gonna mean that it takes less time to clean. I wouldn't say that it's too small, but it's definitely not as big as some of its competitors, which, yeah, it's easier to get into cracks and crevices, but it's gonna take longer to clean a big area. Another, you know, con is you might notice this is like ultra white, this refill of the mop. And what that does is whenever you clean a floor, because it's so white, it's gonna look dirty. I mean, look at the difference between these two. And the reason why I think that's a con is because when you go to store this, if you store it in a place that's out in the open, I just don't think it looks good when somebody sees, you know, a gross mop head sitting in the corner. So for me, at least, it makes me want to change the mop head more often, versus I know that some of the other mops I've used in the past, you know, they'll go on purposely with like a blue or something so that it doesn't look gross when you just see it sitting in the corner. You know, you can barely tell the difference between a used one and a new one. So with this being ultra white, it's just going to show that it gets dirty really quickly. On the flip side of that, it is nice to see like, wow, look how much dirt I pulled up from the floor. And then the last con I have is I did say that this is a good design, and I do stand by that, but it can be a pain to move. There is no break in the bucket, meaning basically as you move this around and you know, put it down and stuff, it is prone to splash on you. I've seen other designs where they actually have a break in the bucket to keep the water from splashing back and forth and try to prevent that. And then obviously it's not on wheels or anything like that, so every time you move to a new place, you need to pick it up and move it. So that's the only bad stuff that I could actually think or say about this. I do think the pros outweigh the cons. I have a lot of different mops, and I actually use this one for the inside of my house more than the other options I have. So you can take it from somebody with experience using different cleaning techniques and mops that this is a really good one if you've got a lot of surface area that you're trying to clean. So if you live in a very small apartment, it's only your kitchen that has a little bit of area that needs to be cleaned. You know, you could probably get something that's a little bit more efficient in terms of setup and cleanup. But if you've got, you know, 1,000 square foot of hardwood floor or something, I definitely think this is a great option. And I like the versatility of, you know, a lot of times I just use hot water, but obviously you can put anything in the water if you want to try out different detergents or cleaners and stuff like that. So it's a lot of